One example that sticks out in my mind and will always stay with me is the night of November 20th. I spoke about it earlier, the night that police used water cannons on water protectors in sub-freezing temperatures. I watched on Facebook like many did that night. I was at my apartment in Tucson at the time where I was teaching, and I was sitting there just prepared to hear of news that someone was going to die. And that was what was going to bring the media to Standing Rock, because all these other standoffs where there has been no media before, that's the sentiment, is that it's going to cost a life before people start to care and start to cover the issue that's happening here on the ground. And the stories that came out after that, I wrote a piece for Indian Country Today talking about the media blackout, because what happened in the early morning hours after that incident were press release statements from Morton County that evolved from a watered-down version printed by James McPherson of the Associated Press, who described that night as skirmishes, and another detail from NBC News Digital, who took the words from Morton County and said that they were using fire hoses to put out fire and not water cannons. And at the same time, I was emailing directly with the PIO with Morton County, and they said, yes, we have water cannons. We are using water cannons, and they are using it as a crowd control measure.
Well, I wish that I was talking to you a couple of weeks ago, because I did a video. We got great drone footage over the bridge that showed no fires. It showed the water cannons being sprayed with not a fire in sight. And the only fire that actually did happen was off the bridge in Hay as a result of tear gas exploding, and the water protectors rushed to it to put it out. And that's video that I was able to get. Renegade Media, props to you. And yeah, it goes back to our original discussion. They're making stuff up. I've seen videos where they're literally standing on top of the ancestral burial ground in their staging area, you know, shooting at unarmed people and saying they're threatening us when they're down the hill. I was at one of the demonstrations probably 2 months ago, where they're on top of the Turtle Island hill. The water protectors are down there, and they're screaming at water protectors, "Take off your mask. That is an aggressive action." So you're telling people to take off their protective mask because you're tear gassing them. That's an aggressive action. So you would think, let me tell you something, if that was a bunch of white, yuppie, rich kids in, I don't know, let's just say the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and the police were doing that, it would be front page news on the New York Times. It would be all over the networks. Same thing would happen if a white person from a decent neighborhood got tear gassed in the face and lost her eyesight. That happened to a Native woman, Vanessa, Sophia Wolanski. I mean, as far as I know, and I've seen literally images of their receipts, Morton County, for grenades. So them actually saying, yeah, some 21-year-old girl, yeah, she just went to the market, got a grenade, and was playing with it. It's preposterous on its face. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of lies, and because there's really not a lot of media here, I do the best I can, but there's not a lot of media here to call out those lies, which leads me to my last question. I'm a very cynical person. I think that's why I work for the Young Turks. Well, a lot of these cable news outlets, if you watch their advertisements, they have petroleum and energy companies in their commercial breaks. They have banks that are funding these pipelines. A lot of these corporate media outlets love to do interviews with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, the patron saint. I don't think a lot of people know that Warren Buffett is heavily invested in this pipeline. So call me very cynical, but I think maybe they don't have marching orders and meetings don't cover this, but I think it's in the culture. Yeah, it's in North Dakota. There's an oil company involved. Let's not worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's the point I was making about the veterans coming. I mean, it's just a very Americana narrative that these commercial media outlets like to latch onto, right? Veterans are good. Veterans are, patriotic. We like to pump the nationalist agenda, or at least in those newsrooms, which I have worked in many times. So I understand what that is. But back to kind of what you're talking about, seeing these receipts and getting these kind of FOIA documents, that takes a lot of, real journalism elbow grease, and it's people like the Young Turks and Unicorn Riot that, I mean, have just shined a really compelling light on some of this information that I think it takes all of us to do as independents. And I think independent media is really the true champion here. I'm not so much talking, I love that out of this movement swelled Indigenous media too. We saw a lot with Indigenous Rise and Renegade and right being this kind of watchful eyes on the ground. I mean, there's no question that Facebook Live channeled this movement just online and gave it to the world in that way. But when I also talk about independent journalism, if we're talking about the craft and the role of journalism, it's the independent journalists that have really been the real foot soldiers in terms of telling the story.
And I lied, one more. I think the thing that troubles me most, and there's a lot of things that trouble me about this story, I was in Bismarck a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago, and I was having fun. I did a little undercover video, you know, kind of went up to the ethics line, but I talk like this, and, you know, I said I'm from Real American News, and I wanted to get them comfortable with me, because then I could, you know, oh, you're the Young Turks, you're a terrorist. So anyway, I did that, and there's not one person I interviewed there in Bismarck, predominantly white, very conservative, that had any idea that this pipeline was originally supposed to go through Bismarck. Really? It was news to them, which I think brings back to the main point. The media is not doing its job. I mean, the Bismarck outlets, in my view, Bismarck Tribune is literally just writes press releases that the police give them. It's propaganda, in my view. The TV outlets here, the local stations, when I see it, it's usually just reporting what the police tell them. A lot of times, they're not even at the events that they're reporting on. But when I saw that up close, besides some of the more racist things they said, it really just shocked me, because this is part of why we have citizens voting for candidates who do things against their interests. They're not informed. I'm not poking fun at these people. It's just they're not informed. When I told some of them, oh, you know, you don't have a problem that it was supposed to go through like your white community, and they were like, oh, I didn't know about that. To me, that's troubling, because if you're not informed, people are going to make the wrong decisions or think that, you know, certain parties in an altercation, one party is right, one party is wrong, when they don't have all the information.
I think also Bismarck is just one of those startup media communities. It's, you know, it's a small market. Many of the reporters who work at the Bismarck Tribune or even the television stations, this is their first gig in the industry, and they're really depending on the leadership within their newsrooms to guide them to craft and frame these stories. And you know, I've been at many of these press conferences with these journalists and talked to them afterwards, and they are asking me questions about, you know, maybe getting a little bit further at the truth. And I also teach journalism. And so I think I have just that kind of soft heart for people starting out in the industry. So I want them to succeed. I want them to see them do well. And so I just think that there's perhaps maybe a lack of guidance in the newsrooms as well. And I think that speaks a lot to just maybe the slant of the industry, right? I mean, Bismarck is one of those communities where I just don't think a lot of people are you know, revolving door in and out like, you know, maybe another market like Denver or Dallas, right? I mean, I think the people who are in those leadership positions, the news directors, have probably been there a really long time, and they probably have a pretty strong agenda or set of ideas and opinions about certain things. But I will say this.
I just want to insert a fact into there. Yeah. Warren Buffett's also invested in Bismarck. Lee Enterprises owns Bismarck Tribune. Warren Buffett owns shares in that. So
I did know that too. But I was just about to say, Bismarck Tribune, to their credit, gave me a nice quote in the, you know, they have a little weekend of like quoted, and they gave me a nice quote, and I was quoted very nicely in the Bismarck Tribune, where I think I said something to the effect like, the minute Morton County knew I was arrested, they should have just let me go. And they gave me a nice little bold-faced name in there. They didn't have to give any mention of that.
Where the hell's my quote? I've been here 7 times. Okay.
To get arrested.
It's miraculous, by the way, but I haven't been arrested yet. I don't know how.
Yeah. Knock on wood. I do not recommend.
Lastly, how could people help you? Is there any way to learn more about your case, help you in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just to continue making noise. This is there's a petition out by the Penn Center. If you go to my Twitter feed at Jenny Monet, JenniMonet, I'm just constantly tweeting it out, probably once a day. So you can find the link there or on Facebook. Jenny Monet, just search my name. It's posted there. And then also there was a letter campaign that we had started through one of my editors. She was great, Tracy, with Yes Magazine. But apparently it was being sent to the district attorney's office of the state of North Dakota, and they were rejecting the letters, saying that they don't have jurisdiction over any of Morton County's cases, and that if they wanted to make noise, they should go to the sheriff's department. And I've kind of stopped short there because I just don't know. I don't know that I want to go there because I'm still maintaining working relationships with them. So because I don't know when I'm leaving North Dakota, right? I don't know when I'm stopping reporting on the story, but I want to keep it as sane as possible without, getting cut off from information too.
Do you have a court date set up or anything like that?
My court date is February 22nd, so I need to strategize about making some noise about that. And I'm just asking my, all the people in the journalism community to really start focusing on this and making some noise, because that's the credible platform. That's the credible microphone that's going to help everybody else listen in. So I'm grateful to my network of journalists who have passed along the word, who have, mentioned it in their newsrooms to get coverage, to yourself for just shining a light on this. And come on down to the courthouse on the 22nd and, we can follow it up from there.
Okay. I'll see what I can do. And I will, once this video is up on YouTube, I will put in the numbers. Call the New York Times, call CNN, call MSNBC, call them all. Ask them why they only cover white journalists being railroaded or anything, or, frankly, white young girls who get kidnapped. I don't see anything about Native Americans being kidnapped, young African-American girls being kidnapped. Natalie Holloway, long time ago, obviously that should be covered, but there seems to be a selective coverage system when it's a nice-looking white girl versus a Native American. So thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for being, my muscle in this, Yeah, I'm just trying to, make everyone happy, but also still fight the good fight.
I don't care about making people happy. All right. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.